Broadcasting from Boston, Massachusetts, the ARC Digital Transformation Viewpoints podcast is the only podcast dedicated to all things related to digital transformation in energy, industrial, and critical infrastructure applications. The podcast is the creation of the ARC Advisory Group Digital Transformation Practice. ARC advises leading companies on technology trends and market dynamics that affect their business. To engage further, please like and share our podcasts or reach out directly on Twitter at ARC_advisory, or please go to the website at www.arcweb.com.
Hello, I'd like to welcome everyone today to our podcast, where we will discuss one of my favorite topics, software-defined automation, a trend that ARC is researching very closely. My name is Craig Resnick. I'm a vice president of ARC, and software-defined automation, sometimes we use the acronym SDA, is an approach to industrial automation that shifts control and functionality from proprietary hardware to open software-centric platforms. SDA enables the virtualization of controllers and centralized orchestration and flexible deployment of automation applications across diverse hardware environments. It fosters interoperability, scalability, and agility, and allowing manufacturers to quickly adapt to changing market conditions and technological advancements. However, there are different approaches to SDA that provide industry with differentiated value, and we have a great example of that today with Schneider Electric's Foxboro software-defined automation. So joining us today is our special guest, Tina Volkringer. She's Vice President, Systems Offer Management for Process Automation at Schneider Electric, and Tina will provide our some expertise and insight regarding Foxboro software-defined automation and what differentiates it and what gives it some unique value propositions to its customers. So, hey Tina, how you doing today? And thanks so much for being here today.
Hi, Craig. Great to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm real excited to have this conversation about Foxborough software-defined automation.
Yeah, that's great. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at Schneider Electric.
So my role is heavily involved with Foxborough software-defined automation as I lead offer management, or I would say the care, feeding, and innovation of our technology roadmap as it pertains to both the Foxborough DCS and its evolution to Foxborough software-defined automation, as well as the Triconic safety systems and our remote operations suite of offers. This is near and dear to my heart because I started off my career with supporting Foxborough DCS and being a subject matter expert in that area. So it's just amazing to see all the changes in technology that we can leverage to really make this a better offering for our customers, to make their lives easier. Been in various roles, from support to quality to now offer, always with Schneider Electric, starting off, as I said, with the Foxborough DCS, different management layers, always been in a global role. So really, really enjoy that and really enjoy working with our customers.
Certainly, with that incredible background and experience, going back to with Foxborough, why do you think the automation industry is ready for software-defined automation?
So, Craig, I would almost flip that around to be, why wouldn't they be ready?
Mm.
Because if we look, right, at over the past 40 years or so, our world has completely changed due to the rise of new technologies, right? It's really transformed nearly every aspect of our lives, both at work and at home. You know, in the workplace, if we look at the collaboration tools such as Teams, even the internet back when that was on the cusp, and collaboration tools, we can do work remotely. We have global connectivity, and teams now operate efficiently across time zones, right? Automation and artificial intelligence have truly streamlined processes, reducing a lot of the manual tasks we see and increasing productivity. So, if we look at home, technology's revolutionized how we communicate, how we even entertain ourselves and manage our daily routines. We look at streaming services, online shopping, digital banking. This has changed everything from how we consume media to shop to handle finances. So, really, why should the automation industry be an exception to this? And I also believe that, it's ready for it because there's several key trends that have converged. I think that make this both necessary and feasible at this time. So, if we look at the complexity of our systems, right? We have cloud platforms, we have interconnected machines. So now, if we look at managing that complexity through a hardware centric model, it's really inefficient, right? The software defined model allows a centralized control, dynamic configuration, and easier scalability. That's one, I would say, trend or key piece that is converging to make this a necessity. Also, traditional automation systems are very rigid and hardware dependent, and the software defined architectures enable rapid updates, remote deployment, and really that agility, okay, to be able to change production needs without these costly hardware overhauls. If we look at the convergence of IT and OT, right, and that really demands a unified approach, okay? These software defined systems bridge that gap and they leverage IT principles like virtualization, orchestration, and cybersecurity in industrial automation. And obviously, everybody's data driven obsessed, okay? Industries are increasingly relying on these real time analytics, AI, and predictive maintenance. So, this software defined infrastructure makes it a lot easier to collect, process, and act on this data across distributed assets, across remote assets. And it's really about cost efficiency and sustainability. This is lowering costs without the reliance on proprietary hardware and improving sustainability, okay? Because you're making your system vendor neutral, de-risking some certain supply chain constraints you may have, so that, you know, that really is lowering cost. And then, if you look at the decentralized control, as I said, remote monitoring and seamless integration, this software-defined automation enables all of these things.
Oh yeah, because we always hear about, the customer's pain points, with their, traditional DCS architectures, PLC and pack architectures. So we're trying to, so one of the things that you described pretty well was how SDA addresses some of these pain points and even other challenges they have, like on things like like say operations maintenance,
Yep.
what are some of even ways you even see SDA, helping, certainly, eliminating, let's say, the top pain points, helping them deal with operations maintenance, in ways that maybe they can't do with their legacy system?
Okay. So, you know, one of the biggest pain points or challenges that I hear from customers that I talk to is how can you allow me to do more with less? And they have cost pressures, right? And as you said, rightly so, Craig, the maintenance and obsolescence is a big topic for them, as well as the complexity of the system and the skills gap we see. Okay. So if you look at these pain points, you see with software defined automation that the obsolescence cycles, right? In rising total cost of ownership, this is really solved with software defined automation. Because if you look at, say, from a maintenance point of view, firmware patching and configuration changes can happen on the fly because of the high availability disruption avoidance. So you can have, it's not just redundancy. You can have a primary controller, a backup controller, and a spare. So this is allowing you to do maintenance, online. You don't have to, have those shutdowns to do this because you can move the workloads around as needed, to shorten maintenance cycles and also be able to do them, online, right? So if you look at the downtime that's needed, it's reduced significantly, right? If you look at an expansion, the time to engineer that is really cut down, right? If you look at the cost of an expansion, that's reduced because the time and the errors that you would see, it reduces errors with the programming, because it would be faster and less error prone. And we've seen that those proof points in actual projects.
Well, yeah, and it's certainly where you see such also, great opportunities is that, people are always telling us, about, we want systems that are more open, that are more flexible, that are, certainly, greater simplicity, especially with the challenges today people have with an ever changing and shrinking both in numbers and in experience workforce. And that so being more open, more flexible, and greater simplicity is certainly key. So how does just on those points, how does Foxborough SDA, how is it really, let's say, even if you compare some of its, differentiators and customer values, how is it help people be more their customers be more open, flexible, and simplification?
So, if we look at building automation systems,
Mhm.
it's very time consuming and error prone. Okay. The control logic is tied to the hardware. HMIs are built separately around the asset. And there is no, I would say, homogeneous engineering to that, right? So these disconnects lead to high engineering costs, frequent rework and delays, long commissioning times, and limited reuse across project. So that tight coupling of the logic to the equipment makes reuse and scaling really difficult. So by managing your automation solution holistically through an application centric approach, you can reduce that rework, right? That therefore lowers those engineering costs, and you can scale and reuse without validation and reduce time to value. When you're looking at expanding, say, take a water plant, for example, and you have multiple sites, multiple plants that are in a network, okay? And you do one, you can copy and paste that across multiples without having to do that rework, with being able to reuse that engineering work, and that truly lowers your cost as well as that time to value, right? Also, the lower life cycle costs through the hardware independence because, the faster deployment and reduced engineering with the tools and application of AI. So if you look at the application centric design, right? You know, it really helps. So if you look at it, you build a pump. It's almost like modular Lego blocks, if you
Mhm.
will, for those control assets to enable fast reconfiguration, to enable fast reuse. So, we really see a huge decrease in the errors, as I said, in the engineering costs and that faster time to market that all of our customers are looking for. Also, you need to look at it from a digital continuity standpoint. So, if we look at digital continuity, what does that mean? That means keeping data connected and consistent throughout the entire plant life cycle, all the way from design to production to maintenance. It's ensuring that that information is always accurate, accessible, and usable across teams and systems. So, some of the benefits of that are automated workflows, again, lower engineering and maintenance costs, better product quality, and that easy integration with analytics for smarter business decisions. Those fast business decisions, real time data, real time information, so you can make those decisions faster. So I would say with our application, centric design and that digital continuity, you're getting that cost savings, you're getting that flexibility and that scalability because you can copy paste that application across multiple lines, multiple sites, and you're looking at it across instead of, from that, one equipment to one HMI. It's more like
Well,
one to many.
yeah, and doing it in a fashion where it's cybersecurity by design. Could you tell us a little bit more about, certainly from, the cybersecurity aspect of SDA?
Yeah, sure. So, cybersecurity is key, okay? And cyber by design, we want to make sure that our systems are secure in doing it from the get-go, not as an afterthought, right? You need to do this right from the beginning. So security is embedded into the architecture and development lifecycle of components from the very beginning, right? Again, rather than being added as an afterthought. Obviously, this is critical for industrial automation because we're controlling essential processes in energy, manufacturing, critical infrastructure. So this is another top of mind. I don't know so much a pain point for our customers, but it's very top of mind, right? Very important to them in their operations. So really, what it means in practice is it's proactive security. So you're anticipating these threats during design, not after the deployment, right? And there's multiple layers of security, both from a network standpoint, an application standpoint, and a device standpoint, right? All of those multi-layer. Users only would have the permissions they need. Okay. So that's like least privilege, right? Only the people that need to have those privileges and the permissions have them. And the systems ship with strong security and settings enabled by default, right? So they're coming to you with these security settings enabled, and you have to go and change them if you wanted to. And then that security is maintained throughout the life cycle, end-to-end encryption, hardened devices, certificate-based trust. All of these things come inherent. So it's really embedded into that architecture, like I said, and the components in the very beginning, right? Not getting wrapped around at the end.
Yeah, yeah, it's funny because a lot of what you described, I would imagine, you would consider to be solutions that differentiate Foxborough SDA maybe from other solutions that are available in the market. Could you tell us a little bit more about some of those where you feel SDA differentiates itself?
Sure, sure. So I think today, you'll hear from a lot of automation vendors, right? They recognize the shift towards software-defined automation, and rightly so. Okay. There's been a lot of articles, a lot of white papers, a lot of shifts toward this in, I'd say, the last 5 or so, 6, 7 years, correct? I think the catch is, though, a lot of these software-defined automation solutions are still proprietary. So they're really locked into that single vendor's ecosystem. So that means that customers still face the same challenges, the limited flexibility to grow and scale, as we talked about, that vendor dependency and potential supply chain delays. We know it's not if, it's when the next supply chain crisis will happen. We're already seeing, issues with memory chips and prices skyrocketing because of the AI boom. Also, it's a lack of freedom to innovate across ecosystem. So this is where Foxborough SDA stands apart. We are committed to open software defined automation. We're a member of universalautomation.org. So we truly give our customers the freedom to choose that best technology to suit their needs, collaborate across the ecosystems, and scale without compromise. So, I think the bottom line is that our solution with Foxborough SDA really transforms the automation from the hardware bound rigid systems to a more flexible, resilient, and future proof platform that truly, if something is within the universalautomation.org, then it's vendor agnostic. it's not tied still into that proprietary system, being software defined, but not so much open, I would say. I think that's what sets us apart.
And why Tina, that is, so critical is, certainly spending as much time as I do going into different plants myself, I started my career with a Foxborough company. I remember when the IA was introduced, 1987, and I still see some of those CP10s today. Okay,
Yeah.
a few of them still running. So people are still trying to say we have a digital transformation journey, but how do we want to protect, kind of our legacy investments and kinda help, evolve those investments into open solutions that bring them into an AI world. So how do you feel Foxborough SDA helps people kinda protect their legacy and provide them with a very clear modernization, migration solution, still protecting their legacy investments?
So obviously, we have quite an install base and we want to protect that install base. And we understand there's been a lot of investment done over a long time. Now, CP10s have been lifetime for a real long time,
Yeah.
Craig. So I hope there's not that many out there. But, you
Oh,
know,
yeah.
a lot of people are resistant to change and they say if it isn't broke, why fix
Yep,
it? Right.
right.
But we are supporting, a gradual convergence from Foxborough DCS to software-defined automation. So, why do I say convergence? Because we're not leaving everything behind. It's not so convergence is the term we like to use because we are going to protect those investments. We are allowing the reuse of a lot of existing hardware that while we're introducing the software defined capabilities. Now, I'm not saying CP10s or anything like that will be, introducing a new control and compute platforms, but we will allow the reuse of servers, workstations, switches, depending on what level they're at and what generation they're at, obviously, right? And as long as, the system requirements meet what the standard is and meet, what that is, right? Also the IO. We're creating hardware that will connect to the current IO, so we aren't asking our customers to rewire at all because we know that the IO is the largest investment and we would not ask that, okay? So these are different ways that we are protecting that investment of today while allowing our customers to converge to software defined. And we want to make sure that we minimize that disruption and downtime, during this convergence. You can coexist for a while through OPC-UA, right? Of the, a current system and a later system. And if you look at, if you think back to what we did from, I would say, a Unix platform, right? Going to a Microsoft, platform to Windows, it's similar to a strategy like that we're converging, we're allowing coexistence. We want our customers to go at their own pace. And that's why we're allowing the reuse of a lot of that existing hardware, the IO, making it easy for our customers to move when they want to, because we know that our customers expect a long life cycle from us. We understand that, just because we need to make it easy, bottom line, and that's what we're striving to do.
What was really important that you brought up and you used the term convergence because there's no manufacturing facility that I've been to that we haven't that for the last 5 or 6 years is not part of their IT/OT convergence journey, even including engineering technologies. And sometimes it's IT/OT and ET convergence as well. So it's really important that at Foxborough SDA, be an enabler of this convergence and also an enabler of certain applications as certain applications, kind of migrate over to autonomous operations. So if you could give us just a little bit more detail as far as, how does Foxborough SDA really help to enable ITOT or ITOT-ET convergence as well as autonomous operations?
Sure, sure. So SDA has native connectivity to the IT ecosystems, and this is through APIs. So it's native connectivity. You don't have to do anything extra, such as MQTT, OPCUA, and other protocols. We integrate with AI and ML platforms and enterprise systems, enabling that real time data exchange and advanced analytics, right? So, really, this openness with these APIs makes that integration with the IT systems pretty seamless, whether it's a cloud, whether it's analytics, whether it's an MES, an ERP, as you said. So it's native connectivity by nature, right? And then if you look at the containerization, so containerizing, so with the soft EPAC, so that it's able to run on any hardware that's within the ecosystem of universalautomation.org and meets standard requirements. So it can run on edge devices, it can run on servers in the cloud. So using these container technologies together with compute apps makes the integration with the data analytics and business intelligence tools really simple at any level. So this is mirroring the IT practices, right? But in the industrial world, in enabling that scalability and flexibility, to do that. Now, if we look at the autonomous operations, we are building the pathway to that with this holistic, control approach, with that digital continuity, and also with all of these analytics and the predictive maintenance. That is another step there. So if you look at the high availability disruption avoidance, right? You have your primary, you have your backup, and as I said, a spare as well, and you decide where those loads go. So that's seamless. That doesn't need any interaction, any intervention. The load of that control and that compute will move to the other spare, the backup as needed. So that is, in my view, a huge step towards autonomous operation because, we have the redundancy right now, but, in it, and it's pretty seamless, but sometimes there needs to be some kind of intervention, right? And if the two aren't synced up, this literally taking that load, putting it without any intervention at all.
Hmm.
And that to me is a huge step towards the autonomous operation.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it's really because of, of certainly SDA's emphasis on the decoupling of hardware and software that you're able to do that because that enables things to be modular. So whether you're working on a server, whether you're working with edge devices, but you're able to, completely decouple. So you're not people aren't tied to owning a hardware software integrated platform that they cannot decouple, and if the hardware technology is getting long in the tooth and old now, but you're still stuck with 10, 20, 30-year-old technology. So you're truly able to decouple hardware and software, and I think that enables you to really be able to execute on that, especially, in an AI driven world where technology is in chips or continuously are changing, and people can now continuously upgrade their hardware platforms, upgrade their software platforms as technology continues to evolve, and making sure they can take advantage of the latest in technologies.
Yes, and that's a great point, Craig, because as I said earlier, it's not if, it's
Right.
when. And we see these headwinds daily, right? With chips and the AI boom and cost increases. So this is truly giving you the flexibility. And when you talk about those older legacy controllers, hardware, you're really at a risk with that, right? Because as we know, if you're not keeping current, right, and upgrading, then that is a big risk to your operation. This
Mhm.
takes that risk out of it, right? And it allows you, because I know it's not an easy thing, right? But this allows you more easily to upgrade, right? With the primary. the secondary and the spare while running your plants. Although, the convergence would be the first step, but then when you're at that mode, it makes life so much easier from a maintenance and operations perspective.
Yeah. I would say when from a milestone perspective, if listeners are interested in certainly how do I acquire Foxborough software defined automation? What are some of the milestones and dates of availability? And can you please you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. You know, Cornerstone of Foxborough SDA is EcoStructure Automation Expert, okay? And that initially launched in 2020. And it has been growing in its capabilities, in the markets we address. So a lot of the different components are already available in the form of EcoStructure Automation Expert solutions, like, this application centricity, the digital continuity, the hardware abstraction from the software. Though that's all been available. But I would say that Foxborough software defined automation is that next step forward, right? To address, you know, a bigger size system, the rigors of a more robust system, which, as I said, is powered by EcoStructure Automation Expert and Aviva software. So we are launching the I would say the complete system along with our AP310 in the second quarter of this year. So a lot of these components are already available, but we'll be launching, the Foxborough SDA as a whole system, with that hardware of the AP310 the second quarter of this year.
Okay. As we begin to wrap things up here, what do you see? What's your prediction? Based on you're looking ahead. The future of industrial control and how you see Foxborough SDA having an impact on that future. So as we now the product is released and it's being installed, and how do you see that changing as far as based on the trends and where you see SDA making an impact as we move as we look to the future. So you're making this a long-term investment certainly for the customer.
Yep. So I think it's going to change really dramatically the way automation systems have been built for the last 40 years, right? Moving to new types of architecture and functionalities, really with a level of deployment simplicity we've never seen before. Okay. So that simplicity, making it easy, right? You know how long the learning curve is to come up on a proprietary system? I'd say a good 2 to 3 years maybe, and you're scratching the surface, right? Um, and you're really enabling that autonomous operation, right? So that's what everybody wants, do more with less, right? Every customer's clamoring for that. Digital continuity and rapid innovation, right? And it's really positioning automation as a platform for AI, edge computing, you know, machine learning, and all of the things that will make a, maintenance operations of a plant that much easier, that much secure, and that much, I would say, simple to do.
Well, I can tell you certainly from based on talking to you today, you can definitely see that Foxborough SDA is not just a technology upgrade, but it seems to be a transformative enabler for open, software-centric, future-ready industrial automation. And I think SDA should be positioned as a core business strategy aligned with competitiveness, resilience, and sustainability, and that manufacturers should focus on interoperability, security, and workforce efficiency to kind of maximize SDA's benefits. So, at ARC, we really expect that, based on these differentiators and unique value propositions, that Foxborough SDA will be very well received in the market. But, I want to thank you, Teeter, again for being here today. It was great talking to you as always, and we really look forward to future discussions with you and, regarding, the continued success of Foxborough SDA. So thank you very much, Teeter.
Thank you, Craig.